let's say for some random unexplained reason, the government happened to give you, I don't know, say $1,200 to do with as you please. And you, the quintessential gamer, know that next generation of consoles are coming and your PC might not be up to snuff to compete at the lower end of the line, and it's time to upgrade. Well, that is what we're going to be covering in this video. What would you do with that theoretical $1,200 that you might have gotten from Uncle Sam? That's what this video is all about, guys. So this is part one of question mark. Not really sure how many parts to take it. Basically, what I want to do on this part one is cover what I personally would do with that $1,200 budget, applying it to a gaming PC that is equipped to handle the next generation of gaming, that being the PS5 and currently Xbox Series X. We'll see if there's a Series S to kind of coincide with it, but for now, those two monsters of consoles, we're going to use that $1,200 budget. I can already tell you that part two is on its way, as I have purchased a PC with my personal required specs. I require a little bit more, a little bit different, and that we're going to talk about that in this video, fitting your personal tastes. But that will be part two, is my personal take and what I was using and what I have decided to build and the reasons why I did those things. So if you're interested in that, please consider subscribing, and if you found this video helpful at all, consider throwing it a like. And part three is definitely possible. We'll see what happens. I have a few ideas for part three, but let's start with part one. Gotta start somewhere, right? So the first thing I want to do is kind of summarize the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X specs, and the idea is to meet, if not exceed, those specs with this PC, because when a new console generation comes out, whatever the console is kind of setting the bar, right? Like, you want to be at least as good as that new console, and that's kind of what we're aiming to do here. You don't want to be falling behind because your CPU doesn't have enough cores, for example. You don't want to build a PC that doesn't have enough cores or a system that doesn't have enough RAM, as these new consoles, which game makers are going to be using as likely, maybe not the minimum spec, but definitely that's like the spec that they're building the games to. So real quick, and this is widely available information, it's been released, let's just highlight some facts about the next gen consoles. PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X are both going to be Zen 2 CPUs with 8 cores. PlayStation 5 is going to be at 3.5 GHz, while Series X is going to be at 3.8 GHz. Zen 2 CPUs are currently on the market, the 3000 series, and it's, once you start getting up into 8 cores, there's not a whole lot of options. You're pretty much restricted to the Ryzen 7 3700X or the 3800X, which is the 37X being a 3.6 GHz 8-core processor, which sits cozy right in between the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, but all Ryzen processors are overclockable. With a little overclocking, you could easily bump that to the Xbox Series X standard. The graphics card is actually the one thing I'm going to leave off. Let's just touch on it real quick. We're talking 10.28 teraflops, 36 CUs at a variable frequency up to 2.23 GHz on the PS5, and on the Series X a 12 teraflop, 52 CUs clocked at 1.825 teraflop GPU. So I'm going to not include a GPU in this build at the moment. And this is also, as you'll see in part two, this is a personal choice that I decided to make. The reason being, both of these GPUs have hardware accelerated ray tracing. Ray tracing is going to be a major player in the next generation of games, And right now, the only option you have is the NVIDIA 20 series, which is already a little aged. The 3000 series is estimated to come out fairly soon, assuming no COVID-related delays. And there's obviously AMD hardware accelerated ray tracing cards in the works, because look right here, the PS5 and Xbox Series X are using AMD cards that have hardware accelerated ray tracing. We will probably see those cards coming out in the near to medium future around the time that these consoles launch, maybe a little before, hopefully a little before. So I'm gonna put some money in the bank for upgrading later. And so I guess there's two options. If you already have a PC like me and you're just kind of making a new computer, I'm just going to put my existing GPU, which is a 1080, in the machine for now. Wait to see, what is the 20 series price drop, what is the 3000 series price on NVIDIA side, and what are the new hardware accelerated ray tracing cards for AMD, and act accordingly, right? Like, before the Xbox Series X comes out, if there's a compelling solution from AMD, I'll probably pick up one of those cards, but for now, I'm gonna put that money aside. And if you are building a PC for the first time, maybe keep this list in your back pocket. Consider the AMD 4000 desktop series that should be coming out, around September, late summer, early fall, assuming no delays again. And at the time, there will be or should be the 3000 series and hopefully an AMD hardware accelerated solution that you can tack on to this. Next, RAM, very easy. Easy and not easy, right? GDDR6 RAM is not something you put on a normal PC motherboard. I just threw in 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM. We're kind of going back a gen where we're sharing the RAM pool and the video card RAM pool. It's interesting. I'm just gonna put 16 gigs of RAM. Really, at this point, if you're playing games on PC, in a new PC, you should be putting 16 gigs of RAM in your system. 8 gigs is still fine, but for new builds, I would say 16 all the way. Storage. This is an interesting point. Both are using PCI Gen 4 NVMe SSD solutions. These are expensive, guys, to the point that I don't really know how they're doing this. NVMe Gen 4, a 500 gigabyte card is $125 realistically. And that's just kind of where we're at right now. Pushing it up to a terabyte puts you over $200 for your hard drive. So the idea that I'm presenting is put a 500 gigabyte NVMe Gen 4 hard drive. You can put new games on that. If you want to pick up an older SSD or something like a SATA SSD or even a mechanical hard drive, you can supplement that for older games and for extraneous storage. But this PCI Gen 4 should be used for new modern gen games for the time being, and maybe in 18 to 24 months the price of these will drop drastically and you'll be able to get maybe a 2 terabyte drive for $100, and then you can kind of switch your drives around. So the idea would be get a motherboard with 2 M.2 PCI Gen 4 slots and you'll be good to go. And that's kind of where the list is at, guys. I put together it's super simple, right? I just put the CPU, and I put an X570 motherboard that fit the spec that I described, where it has 2 M.2 slots, so that, and they are PCIe Gen 4, so in the future you will be able to just throw in an extra drive and shift your OS however you want. But I just threw the AMD Ryzen 3700X with the ASRock 570 Gaming Pro 4 some Corsair 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and that just extremely ridiculous Gen 4 500 gigabyte drive. But now there's a few lingering questions, right? What I presented was about $632 of your $1,200. Well, there's a few things that I kind of left out. First and foremost being the video card, which we already talked about. You should be grabbing that at a later date, in my personal opinion. I don't think it's worth picking up the 2000 series at this moment. I think if you have a card, use the card. If you don't have a PC yet, just wait it out. The case, I'm going to talk about that in my part 2 video, why I chose the case that I chose. You can spend as much or as little as you want on the case. Pick the front IO that you want and pick the aesthetic that you want. Do you want lights? Do you want a front panel? You can spend as much or as little as you want on that. And then the power supply obviously is also kind of up to you. Just do what feels right, I guess. I would say don't go too cheap. That's my advice for the power supply. But here we have it. I mean, I gave $632 worth of parts, and then realistically, once you add in the case and the hard and the power supply, you would add maybe $200 max. That brings you up to about $800, and then you have about $400 to spend on your graphics card. And yeah, so if you're interested in part 2, it should be coming in about a week and a half or so. My parts are coming. I went a little over in some regards, and I'll give my justifications why. I mean, part of it's because I'm editing videos and stuff like that, but if you found this helpful, throw us a like. Enjoy your COVIDCash, as I'm calling it, and I will catch you guys next time.